CEOs.
8 years, Canadians are learning the hard way that the Prime Minister is simply not worth the cost. And the latest food price report shows that Canadians are bracing for another devastating blow next year, with families being forced to pay over $700 more for groceries. And that's on top of all the price increases the Prime Minister's carbon tax and inflationary deficits have already caused. Instead of making food more expensive with planned tax hikes, why don't the Liberals support our common sense plan to take the carbon tax off of families, First Nations, and farmers?
All members please to wait their turn to have their opportunity to speak. The Honourable Minister for Families, Children and Social Development. Order. Order. The Honourable Minister for Families, Children and Social Development.
Mr. Speaker, well, the Conservatives continue to do all that they can to paralyze government. We are here to work on behalf of Canadians and happy to do so, Mr. Speaker. We will continue to make the necessary investments in our social programs, in Canada Child Benefit, in our $10 a day National Early Learning and Child Care Program. These programs are transformational for Canadian families, saving them hundreds of dollars each and every month. Mr. Speaker, we'll continue to work hard on behalf of Canadian families.
The Honourable Member from Regina Capel.
The transformation that this government has caused to families is that working people now have to go to food banks after 8 years of this Prime Minister. Let me read you a quote from that food price report. Canadians are reducing their expenditures on groceries, either by reducing the quantity or quality of food they are buying. This is unbelievable. This is in Canada. We used to have a high quality of life, especially for working people, and now those people with jobs are having to put water in their milk or literally go hungry. Do the Liberals not realize what they've done to this country, and when will they finally take the tax off so food prices can come down?
The Honourable Minister of Finance and Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we will take no lessons from the Conservatives when it comes to supporting the least vulnerable in Canada. Let's review the facts, Mr. Speaker. UNICEF came out with a report just this month where they showed that child poverty in Canada has decreased by 22% compared to where they left Canadians under our government. 2.3 million more Canadians have been lifted out of poverty under our government. They know how to cut. They don't know how to support Canadians.
The Honourable Member of Lennox Naddington.
Canada's food report for 2024 revealed that Canadian families will have to pay roughly $700 more next year for groceries.
Wow.
Basic food staples like meat, vegetables, and baking goods will all increase 5 to 7%. Canadians, Mr. Speaker, cannot afford this. Rents are rising faster than wages for the first time in 60 years. Mr. Speaker, will this Prime Minister, for once in his political life, listen to Canadians and axe the carbon tax for businesses, for farmers, for First Nations, and for families for good?
The Honourable Minister for Families, Employment and Social Development.
Mr. Speaker, when the member opposite talks about basics, I'd like to point out the basic fact that just yesterday, every member in this House, including every Conservative member, had the opportunity to support Canadian families and children by voting to support a national school food program. And what did they do, Mr. Speaker? Every single one of them voted against it, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, we will continue to support Canadian families.
The Honourable Member from Hastings, Lennox Naddington.
Mr. Speaker, it's no wonder food bank usage and the need for food programs are exploding, because this Prime Minister's taxes are directly making food prices more expensive.
That's right.
The rising cost of everything is not sustainable for Canadians. After 8 long years of this Prime Minister and its NDP enablers, families are forced to choose between paying rent and putting food on the table. Mr. Speaker, when will this tired, Liberal NDP government share some Christmas joy, axe the tax, and deliver some relief for Canadians?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Environment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, we have solutions, not slogans. Solutions for fighting climate change and solutions for affordability, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the question since it gives me the opportunity on this side of the House to announce it on the same week as our government committed to a 75% reduction in methane emissions from oil and gas. As of today, we are the first oil and gas producing nation to put a cap on oil and gas emissions, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, we have solutions. Solutions for climate change. Solutions for affordability. When will the Conservatives admit that the only facts that they've got are those of wealthy oil executives?
The honourable member from Dauphin Swan River.
After 8 years, Canadians can't afford to eat because of this Prime Minister's carbon tax. A new report shows that a family of four pays $700 more next year on groceries. The Prime Minister had a chance to lower grocery bills by removing the carbon tax on farmers. But once again, he proved he is not worth the cost. The Prime Minister spent the weekend working to gut Bill C-234 to keep the carbon tax on. Will the Prime Minister finally listen to Canadians and take the carbon tax off of farmers, First Nations, and families?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, a UNICEF report released this month shows the truth that child poverty in Canada is down 22% under our government. But you know who is driving up prices? Vladimir Putin. He's driving up the price of fuel and of food. And you know what? The member opposite has the privilege of representing a rural Manitoba constituency. It was Ukrainian Canadians who settled Canada's prairies, and we owe it to the people of Ukraine to support them today